Hello, I have decided to make a video about legendary predictions for 9.2 for Feral, because we will be getting like Covenant legendary baseline, and then we will have one choice of legendary. So I will be elaborating like what could be the last choice, or the second choice of legendary paired with the Covenant one, and what could be good and what not. And I will be making my predictions. So I hope you will enjoy the video. I hope you will apologize my low FPS, which is currently like happening for me. And maybe you will like to hear it, maybe not. You will see. Thank you. Okay, let's look at Kyrian. Similarly to Night Fae Feral, it is already running the Covenant Legendary, which is actually a good sign, because it means that your Covenant Legendary isn't bad. So you are very likely to be playable even in the next patch. So I am predicting that Night Fae and Kyrian Feral will have very easy time in next patch. Actually, but there is a downside to Kyrian, because it has the Kyrian affinity, so you like to play with Necrolord. I've also seen Kyrian Ferals play with Night Fae. I've seen Kyrian Feral and Fire Mage, and the Fire Mage was actually Night Fae, so that is also a possibility, but what you enjoy the most is actually the versatility from Necrolord. But that's also very limiting, because maybe your partner doesn't like to be Necrolord, so it's not like it doesn't depend only on you what you are good at, or actually what your Covenant is good at. It also depends on your partner, and if your partner doesn't have good like Necrolord Covenant or maybe Night Fae, then you shouldn't be like Kyrian if you want to play with them. That's my opinion. It also remains to be seen if Feral will be good with Hunter, because that's also one limiting factor, because Hunter does like to be currently Ventir, but maybe it will shake up with Covenant Legendary. Maybe it will be good Necrolord Hunter, maybe it will be good Night Fae Hunter. I've seen some reasons for Night Fae to be good, but maybe not, I don't know. I don't play Hunter, so I cannot say. But it's actually quite limiting, because Hunter is like the most popular partner for Feral. And well, but actually right now Feral can play with other specs. I've seen like now Kyrian Feral playing with Necrolord Monk, Necrolord Warrior. I've seen like so many Necrolord partners for Feral, so maybe Feral can do without Hunter as well. It seems like in this patch they can, so maybe they can even in next patch. And as for your second legendary, I am predicting Eye of Fearful Symmetry to be the way to go, because every 1 minute you have the Kyrian go, you have the bond, you can empower your partner, he will do more damage, you will get the most of the buff, you will have double bonus of haste or versatility or whatever their Covenant is, and you also will have like the chance to do 2 or 3 ferocious bites, depends if you spend combo points on Maim or not. And this will be actually very good, because right now Feral, if they play with Kindred Affinity, they don't have like enough like burst potential. They do have enough damage, yeah, true, but they cannot do much ferocious bites in this short window, because they don't have enough like combo point generating abilities to do in these 10 seconds. So that's something that Eye of Fearful Symmetry can do. It actually pairs very well with the Kindred Affinity, just because Kindred Affinity right now is giving you the buff, but it's not allowing you to do the strongest abilities like Ferocious Bites, and this is something that allows you to do these, and with the buff it pairs very well. So I'm predicting Kindred Affinity and Eye of Fearful Symmetry will be the way to go, and it might even create like short burst window with the Tigress Fury only, and it might be something to consider, and it might be very strong. So I'm believing that Eye of Fearful Symmetry is way to go, but maybe there will be even Frenzy Bound considered for their like cooldown reduction on Berserk, but I don't see it very likely. I think that the short window of opportunity, like kill window with Eye of Fearful Symmetry, is the best, or will be the best rather. And also like there is the chance that maybe defensive legendary will be the way to go, but let's consider only the damaging one. Okay, let's look at Night Fae. There are many legendary choices for Night Fae. I have seen predictions for like 3 or 4 of them. I've seen prediction for Drought of Deep Focus, but I don't think that's good with Night Fae, as it doesn't buff as it buffs dots, I mean. And Night Fae isn't about dots, it's about very short burst windows, and I don't think that like buffing dots by 40% in this window will result in much damage increase in this short window. So I don't believe Drought to be way to go, but maybe it will. Maybe it will be with Blood Talons, if you can keep it up because of the Sabertooth, so you can actually buff it and then refresh it, and maybe with this it will be enough like sustained pressure. But I don't feel like Night Fae wants sustained pressure. I feel it wants like very short burst windows, and this doesn't like do much for it. Then I've seen predictions for Circle of Life and Death, but I think that's very similar to Drought of Deep Focus, and maybe even worse. So this will not be legendary of choice as far as I think. And then there will be Eye of Fearful Cemetery, and I don't think that one is good either. I've seen predictions for this being the strongest, and I know why, because people played it before. They played it much like in start of Shadowlands with Kyrian Feral, but I don't think it will be good with Night Fae. It also doesn't have enough synergy with your Convoke, because if you use Tiger's Fury before Convoke, then you actually waste this legendary, because it will give you combo points, but Convoke already does give you combo points, so it will actually overcap you, so you don't get anything from the legendary as you would have gotten like full combo points from the Convoke itself. You could actually use Convoke and then use Tiger's Fury. I don't know if anybody does that, but maybe they do, and maybe it will be good for like 1, 2, or 3 Ferocious Bites after Convoke, but I feel like that would be like too long of a window, so you would actually lose your like window of opportunity to score a kill. So there is actually one other legendary I have seen that might be good enough, and that's Frenzy Band. But from what I've seen, actually it's not very clear tooltip. I didn't know if the Berserk actually applies to the dots, like if they refresh without increasing damage, or if they refresh and increase the damage. What I mean by that is, if I do 2 shreds in a row, if the first shred damage over time is actually erased by the second one that I apply, or if the portion of damage I would have done is actually still there. And what I've found out, because I've tried to look at Wowhead and stuff, but I didn't see anything, I didn't know. So what I did is I actually crafted it to testing. So when I do shred, it actually does damage over time like 1600. And if I do 2 shreds in a row, or maybe 3 or 4, so it's actually much clearer, it does like 3k damage. So actually it does increase. If I do multiple shreds in a row, it does increase the dot damage. It's not like losing damage. So that's pretty good for the legendary. And for that reason, I think the Frenzy Band will be the way to go. Because during Celestial Spirits, I mean Convoke, you do sometimes shred or rake or stuff. So this will actually gain even the damage during the Convoke. That is pretty strong. So it will buff Convoke. And also it will reduce cooldown on Berserk, and because of the tier set it might be even influential enough, so this might be very good with Incarnation even, if you would go instead of Soul of the Forest for Incarnation. So I believe that Night Fae does have potential to run Celestial Spirits, Frenzy Band, and maybe even Incarnation for very strong Berserk goes and Convoke goes, and I believe that will be the best legendary choice for the Druid. Also, there is always the opportunity that maybe some defensive legendary will shine up, and maybe the defensive legendary will be the way to go. But I'm right now like considering only the damaging options. So let's consider that, and let's believe that the damaging legendary will be the way to go. But as for Night Fae, if any like defensive legendary would be used, I would bet that Night Fae will be using it and not Kyrian or Necrolord, that it will be Night Fae who will be using the defensive legendary with much higher chance. because it doesn't care about damage outside of convoke windows, or actually not enough. Okay, last but not least, let's look at Necrolord. Actually, to be fair, it is the least, because Necrolord is not looking very good because of the Covenant Legendary. As for Night Fae and Kyrian, your Covenant Legendary is actually your best in slot, and you are playing it even if you have a choice not to. But as for Necrolord, you have a choice to not to play Necrolord Legendary, and you do take that choice. You, instead of Covenant Legendary, you play Drought of Deep Focus right now, because Covenant Legendary actually isn't very good. It just splits Adaptive Swarm into 2 occasionally, so it gives you more AoE, but it's not influential enough compared to Drought of Deep Focus, in which you actually can do great single target damage with Adaptive Swarm, Tigris Fury buffed dots and stuff like that. So Drought is actually very good right now, but the issue is that even though Drought is good, that even if you add Locust Swarm to it, it's not getting much better, because Locust Swarm is buffing your AoE and Drought is strictly single target damage. So those two actually have anti-synergy. So the legendary you like the most is actually not getting anything from the other legendary of Necrolord. Of course, there is a possibility that Circle of Life and Death will be good, because that's another legendary that is buffing damaging over time effects. But the issue is that keeping uptime with dots with this legendary will be very difficult, and it remains to be seen if it's even strong enough, because it will get stronger by like 25%, while Drought of Deep Focus buff them by 40%. And sure, you can do multi-dotting, but how possible is multi-dotting with dots having shorter duration? It's probably not good enough. And also you have to consider that with the Drought you could have done stuff like Cycloning, Maim, Rip, and sometimes even Ferocious Bite. And with Circle of Life and Death you will have much less time to do stuff like that, and you will have much shorter window of damage over time effects, which you have to constantly reapply. So you will have to keep at least 2 like Rips or 2 Rakes, 2 Moonfires on 2 targets. I mean like 1 on each target. Otherwise this combo isn't getting anything of the legendary, so I don't think it will be good enough. So I don't think Necrolord will actually shine in new patch. So which is actually sad, because Necrolord is the only feral structure, or how to put it, design, which deals with damage over time effects. The other 2 ferals are direct damage. Of course you can even consider direct damage effects on Necrolord, but honestly that feels like just worse version of something that already exists in Night Fae or Kyrian. Because if you want to do direct damage, then you are probably better off buffing the direct damage, and the Kyrian Feral buffs it much better. So just the Adaptive Swarm and this legendary isn't like good combinations for PvP for Feral in my opinion. So I don't predict Necrolord Feral being too strong. But maybe it is, and if it is, then I predict that Circle of Life and Death will be the way to go. Okay, that's it for Necrolord, and I think that will be it for today. So thank you for watching. I hope it helped. I don't think I changed anybody's mind, or maybe I did. Just I wanted to say my arguments for these legendaries. Maybe you already heard some of this, maybe you've already seen some of these, but I wanted to show like my kind of thinking. Thank you.